How's it going, everybody? Welcome to Big Gold Belt Media with another spoiler-filled review of the Sympathizer, the season finale. Cam and Damien here to trudge on through this series, which has been a bit of a drag, and I'm putting that nicely. We said last episode was the worst one we had seen in the series thus far. Correction. This is the worst episode we have seen in the series. And it just happened to be the season finale. So we'll do a little combined show here for you all. We'll talk about what stood out in the episode. We're not going to go bit by bit, breakdown by breakdown. And then we're going to talk about what we took from the show. And then just overall just discussion about should there be a season 2, things like that. So that's the journey we're going to take you on. So it's not going to be a shot-for-shot breakdown. We're just going to talk about the ending or just major plot points and then things we learned. So I'll start off by saying we called it, I believe, back in episode 2 or 3.
Yep.
Where we said the reason why we keep seeing all these Robert Downey Jr. characters by the captain is because that's his dad, for one. We called that because in this episode, we're shown why he's a bastard, why he's mixed. It's because there is the French churchman known as Robert Downey Jr. with them damn wafer cookies like they're taking sacrament way back when. And it paid it off because this whole episode was an homage to Clockwork Orange, where we had the captain still being tortured. We find out Bond's being tortured. We found out how they wound back in this re-education camp. It was a whole to-do, but the major mysteries were solved of why do we keep seeing Robert Downey Jr. in these male non-Asian characters? It's because his father was a French, I guess, in the French ministry or just in the French church. He may or may not have raped his mother. That was still a little unclear to me.
Yeah.
And spoilers for the book, from what I read, or when I went back and read it for the summarization of it all, was that the captain, or in the book, the narrator, because he's not called the captain, kills his father in the book. So, and mind you, we said we weren't going to look at the novel before we finished the show. The minute we finished, I zoomed straight to the Wikipedia of that novel. And let me tell you, they should have kept it a book. That is my first thought process. They should have kept it a book. I end a lot of my streams with the following phrase: just because something is an intellectual property does not mean it needs to be made into another medium than what it originally was intended. And this suits that. This was the worst episode of the season.
Yeah.
This was the most all over the place episode of the season. And the ending put them back where we started when they're traveling out of Saigon to the next journey between the captain and Bond. Back to where we started. So, Cam, thoughts about not even just what we saw per shot, but just overall thoughts on this whole show as it wrapped up in this episode as it correlates to the show.
So first, I would say congratulations to us for finishing and getting through all 7 episodes of this series, because these last 2 were there was just a lack of something that we were missing when watching this show. And like this actual episode, the season finale is titled "Endings Are Hard, Aren't They?" Yes, they are. This one was hard to watch as well because this was not the ending I thought we were going to get, to be honest with you. I thought there was going to be some crazy master plan where the captain, gets to escape and, he takes down the evildoers and kind of like, I don't know. I think I was looking for it to turn into like some type of action superhero flick towards
like a spy flick, a real spy flick.
Spy flick. He leaves, explosions as he walks away super slow. That's not what we got. We didn't get that at all. You know, it was obviously completely the opposite of that. And I think, you know, I think they did a fair enough. I think they did a good job, honestly, with the story for the most part. But once we got to these last two episodes, I think they kind of struggled to find, you know, more conceptual ideas to push forward for the viewer to be able to gravitate to, because it just felt like they were just running in circles these last two episodes. That's what I felt like, just in a rat wheel or a hamster wheel, just going continuously. And it felt like when we left off on episode 6, you know, there's going to be something new, something fresh happening in episode 7. I mean, of course, we got to see, I mean, who our main comrade was, right?
The three amigos,
the three amigos. We finally got to see them back together, not in the version that we thought we were going to see. But I mean, to go back to your question, though, I thought that this series as a whole was pretty good, except for these last two episodes. They were very lackluster to me, and I felt like they could have came a little bit stronger just to make it, you know, an apparent yes for people to, you know what, we need to continue this and do a season 2. But now I don't know if that's going to happen, to be honest with you.
Well, we know there's another book in the series. So suffice it to say, there may be a season 2, but looking at the ratings, I don't see it. They're barely making a 0.25 in the ratings for the most part since episode 1 here on Max, and it releases on Thursday, I believe the 23rd, actually tomorrow. No, is it Sunday?
No. Sunday the 26th
That's right.
at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on HBO, and then streaming on Max as well.
Max. Yeah, so sorry about that, guys. I'm getting all of my dates confused because that's how weird this episode was. So let's start here. We're back at the camp, right? The re-education camp. I know I've been calling it all season an internment camp, but we're back at this re-education camp, when in reality, it's not a re-education camp, because this is the side in which the captain is representing on the sneak. But they don't know that. Right. We're shown that when he gets there, they think he's part of the general's crew legitimately. Because how they got there in the first place was Claude sent a group of people, allegedly, after a night out at the strip club, back into the war zone for whatever reason to join the general's, I believe the general's little militia, where we talked about last episode. So it's Bond, it's a handful of extras from, let's say, the movie that was filmed earlier this season, and the captain. And Claude takes these guys to the strip club to give them one more night of woohoo before they go into it, knowing this is like a Task Force X Suicide Squad mission. Now we saw, what did you say in our group chat? You were like, "Oh, look, boobies!" Like that's what they were exposed to before going back to the war zone. So you would see, going between present day and future and previous day, where we're in the strip club one second and then we're back in the jungle the other, and people are getting picked off, bang, 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 and then we're shown in the course of this episode, we're shown that Claude knew. The captain wasn't on the up and up. And here's the thing that drove me nuts. Claude knew because he pulled out the tape recorder at the strip club to show, gotcha, bitch. But he gave the captain an out. He gave him an opportunity to get a slap on the wrist by all intents and purposes, by taking this concoction that's going to give him the runs for 2 straight days. He won't have to get on that plane and potentially die. But because Bond is getting on that plane, and because he doesn't want to give in, the captain would rather die in Saigon than go to, I guess, American prison. So him and Bond are the only 2 people left alive after going back into the jungle. So we already got 2 swerves right there. Number 1, Claude was in on it. Number 2, the captain decided to go back to Saigon himself with the militia group and figured, fuck it, let me just go back home. What I didn't expect was for him and Bond to be in this retraining but we don't see Bond the duration of this season, right? At the
Right.
camp when they come back. We're thinking, I told you, I thought Bond was dead. I said,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know what? We haven't seen Bond this whole time at the camp. And then when the captain finally finishes his script, his confession, we see
Mhm.
Bond chilling. It
Right.
turns out that the captain was held for a year by
Yeah.
the commandant and the commissioner or the commissar, which
Mhm.
we also found out who the commissar is.
Right.
Well, you know, if you've seen Naruto, you know who Madara Uchiha is. So think of it like that. So the captain's released. He goes to where everybody's eating in the camp. He sees Bond, and people say, I would applaud you if I was allowed to, because we're led to believe that the captain survived for a year of either solitary confinement or just being the commandant's, verbal whipping boy. And I'm shocked because we're like, where the fuck has Bond been this entire time? And then
Right.
the rug pull to end all rug pulls, that it's not so much the commandant that we got to be afraid of. The guy that's running the camp, the Uchiha of it all, turns out to be this man with one eye and a half KKK mask, like you said, some junk like that.
Right.
It turns out it's Mon.
Yep.
Mon is the leader of this camp. The reason why the commandant didn't know who Mon was is because when he came to this camp as a victim of a napalm attack, no one knew his name.
Right.
He just wound up running the camp and became the commissar. So the three amigos are still together in this camp.
Right.
And now and this is where you and I start to get pissed off, because we're thinking, wait a minute, you took us on this cross-country journey, all these lessons, all these Robert Downey Jr. Characters and cameos, Claude, the dumpling, the general,
Right.
the general's daughter, which was on the final episode, mind you, just FYI, she wasn't in there. So your last episode's little nuzzle, that was the end of her.
That was it.
The general's toe story, that was the last we got of him, from last week, only to be brought back to the three amigos of Mon, Bond, and the captain. Cam, what the fuck?
Crazy. I honestly, I had some idea that the man in the mask had to be Mon, right? I mean, I'm like, who else could it have been? And especially for the captain to have been in solitary confinement, writing this script for a year. Who would keep a prisoner that long just to write down their own truths, And I guess it was a form of re-education where he was trying to kind of make the captain remember what his true calling actually was, or what he really was there for. Because there's moments of his life within himself that he actually made himself forget. Like the scene we saw where he was torturing, or when they were torturing the girl from the first episode that we got to see. And that was terrible. Like that was when the folks watch it at home, they're going to be like, oh, that was a little excessive, I think, with the Coca-Cola. Yeah, it's
Why
super
he drinking it like that?
I know. I'm like, ew. I'm like, that dude's.
There were some sus behaviors with the Coca-Cola.
And then he took another sip. He drank the whole Coca-Cola, right? And then he took a sip of the other one. And I'm like, hey, you greedy, bro. Pass
and
the Coke. Like somebody else gotta drink some too, right? God, dog. Sparingly. But I thought it was crazy because you saw the general when they were getting ready to do that torture scene. The general was like, "Ooh, it's hot in here," and walked out. And of course, the captain was stuck. He's like, well, I want to no sucker. I can't walk. I can't say it's hot too. Like I can't be like, "Ooh, it's hot too. I'm gonna come with you." So he had to sit through it. I mean, especially that being his comrade, he felt some type of way. But I felt like they didn't feel any, type of suspicion towards him when he decided to get up and try to kind of save her. Or was that a moment in his mind where he was trying to relive it?
That's not clear, but if that was a real scene, I believe that's when Claude started realizing that you may not be made for this. Because remember, go back to the first episode we talked about how Claude said, you got to get in it. You got to feel it. You got to, react to it as if it's a show,
Yeah.
right? We said as if it's a theater show.
Right.
And that might have given Claude enough of an idea to say, from episode 1. Because remember, we kept seeing Claude pop up randomly whenever the captain went places. Right. And you even asked, does he even live there? What's he doing there?
Right.
So
out of nowhere.
It was hiding in plain sight. Claude was in on the captain the whole time. But to your point about the bottle, so we thought they just tortured this woman by beating her up, right?
Right.
That's what the captain's conditioned himself to believe what happened. So while he's going through this torture, because at some point in the camp, he gets taken to a special room by a doctor and the commandant, and they force him to remember through shock therapy. It turns out they raped this girl with a bottle for information. And it turns out she wound up in the same camp as the captain. After all that, and he asks her, why didn't you blow my cover? And her answer was very just nondescript of just, I thought what I was fighting for was useful. I thought what I was hiding or holding for you, the information, was important.
Right.
It wasn't, but at the time she didn't know that. So, and she proved to be tougher than the captain, because she's like, if I could survive getting raped with a bottle, I can survive anything, as she's puffing on her cigarette, mind you. So that whole thing was just, and maybe that's the point, but when you do a lot of psychological dumping of characters in one episode in the last 30 minutes, that's a problem for the audience.
It was a lot.
That's too much emotional investment for a show that we have been slow burning the entire season to say, oh shit, we ran out of time. Here's some more exposition, and here's the why of it all in the last 30 minutes of the damn episode. So you and I were playing catch up while we're watching this, like, oh, remember this? Remember this happened. Okay, remember when this happened. But then while the captain's being tortured, he's having flashbacks or just hallucinations of Sonny, of Dumpling, about whether we thought he was dead, reliving a near-death experience because he's seeing them with no bones and stuff.
That was weird.
Well, apparently he had to break his legs to get out of his bonding.
Right.
But it turns out Mon put him there for his own good, like you said, to learn the hard way. So a lot of dots had to be connected in this episode. What I just didn't like, it just took 30 minutes of the last episode to put it all together, and it seemed rushed.
Right.
What about you? What did you think about after all that?
Yeah, I definitely think towards the end, it definitely seemed like they were trying to compile way too many character dynamics into one little, group of time. I felt like this could have been extended out to maybe 8 episodes, to be honest with you, to give us like a full rounded full circle where we get to see, the ending that really made more sense by explaining a little bit more about the characters. I think the crazy dynamic is, I think the girl that he saw in the camp was actually a ghost from what I thought I saw, right? I think she was like a ghost that he was seeing, since he was seeing all these other ghosts of all these other people. And she was, definitely telling him that, the information I thought I had for you was important. But I think this was a whole, re-education or relearning process for the captain, that, his cause really wasn't just for the things that he was doing, all the stuff you were doing was really for nothing. And I think there was a scene in there towards the end where he's talking to Mon, and Mon sees the slogan right up top, right, which was in Vietnamese. And it was like, nothing is important but freedom and
independence.
And independence, right? Or nothing is more important, it was something like that. But it was like, if you read it correctly, it's basically saying that nothing is better than freedom and independence, because with freedom and independence comes all this sacrifice, all this change, all this heartbreak, and all these people's deaths, at the end of the day. So they would rather have nothing than to have to go through all that other stuff. And I think the slogan wasn't originally meant to be that way, but I think that's Mon's new interpretation of it. And that's a reason why he tried to keep the captain away from coming back to Saigon in the first place. But
Right.
The captain being the captain, it reminds me of Jake. He just doing his damn thing.
Jake. This made me miss Jake.
HBO shows.
This made me miss him, bro. This whole show made me miss Jake and Katagiri and Tazawa and all them cats, man. But okay, so you just said something that sparked my memory. Now I'm looking at those. So spoilers, kids, for those who are looking at the novel. You know, Mon's the commissar. We know that. But like you said about the slogan, nothing is important. So basically, they're talking about nothingness. After everything that they've been through, nothing. It doesn't matter. The freedom, the independence, nothing matters.
Right.
Is what they kept making him read it. And I'm thinking, what are you talking about?
Right. I'm not saying thing.
Like the final lesson. Okay, I'm reading from verbatim from Wikipedia. Lastly, he must learn Mon's final lesson that a revolution fought for independence and freedom could make those things worth less than nothing. That nothingness itself was more precious than independence and freedom. Nothing was the important part. The nothingness of it all was important.
Right. It's more important than all of that stuff.
Yeah, so basically, like, all the shit you went through didn't matter in the grand scheme. And then we're jumping around, obviously, and we'll go back to more of the episode. And then the novel ends just like the show ends on the boat. They get back on a vessel, like a immigrant vessel, where they have a 50-50 chance of making it out of Saigon because Mon sacrifices himself because no one has seen under his bandage on his face. So he swaps places with the captain. He kidnaps Bond, saying this prisoner is coming with me. After he kills a soldier to give Bond the uniform of the killed soldier. So the three amigos, one last mission together, where Mon again stays behind for Bond and the captain to go and live their nothingness. So fuck, man. Like, I get, and I'm sorry for cursing so much, but I get the mission. I got the gist. I got why.
Right.
But why did we have to take 3 laps around the airport to land the plane is what's bothering me. Like you said, we could have fleshed this out maybe one more episode. Pacing wise, it would have been great. I could have done without the fake Ronald Isley love triangle between him, you know, all that. I could have done without all that.
Yeah, it was unnecessary.
Unnecessary. You could have just filled that up with more real plot meat. Pause. But it's one of those things where just, man, I am so annoyed that we spent 7 episodes getting invested in the captain and Bond and Mon for what? Nothing. Sophia's thing ended last week.
Wow.
The whole, I know you killed him, I'll be your alibi, hit the bricks.
And
then that was it.
That was weird.
So, and I think maybe that was we set ourselves up for disappointment, you and I, because these were the ending moments for these characters last episode. We just thought there would have been a bigger payoff. We set ourselves up for a bigger payoff. When in reality, last episode with the general and the general's daughter, if you really look at it, that was their ending. When you really look at Sophia and how she gave the captain, again, an out. That was the ending. Claude leaving the strip club after giving the captain an out. That was the tying of that story, that loop, after we knew Claude knew. But to go back to and maybe that's the point, is that we were so enveloped in the American side of it all that when we got back to Saigon, we forgot that this is about Saigon and not about the captain's life in America. So it had to end in Saigon because that's where it all began, in that theater when the girl was getting raped by the Coke bottle. So that's my bad, now that I'm talking it out, for having that kind of expectation.
Yeah.
but you still didn't land the plane properly. I'm sorry.
No, not at all. I honestly didn't think that those were a farewell in the last episode for those characters. I definitely thought there was going to be more to it. Like maybe at the
Of
end of this
course.
episode, he returns back to America and we get to see, things happen, things get worked out. He's back with Lana. Who knows, But it just kind of left us not on a cliffhanger, but kind of to wonder what if or what happened to these other
Mhm.
people and how they carried out their lives. But I would say episode 1 through 6 definitely made you more invested, like you said, in the American
Mhm.
side of the story opposed to Saigon, because Saigon was like episode 1, I think, right? And then we
Yes.
didn't go back to Saigon until the end, episode 7. So I was like, I like you said, I forgot this was about Vietnam. This was not about America and him trying to extend into the culture at all.
Mhm.
It was about him trying to return back home and figure out things and build from there. So it definitely threw me for a loop for sure. But
Yeah.
I just feel like it could have been a better closeout last episode for all those other characters that were secondary on here.
And I think maybe that's it. Maybe you and I thinking it was going to be a better send off for all these characters,
It's our fault.
when in
Our fault.
reality,
Yeah.
and even the reveal of the father of the dad, it felt
Yeah, that was
so
kind of
eh,
weak. Kind of weak.
eh.
Yeah, like but it wasn't anything crazy though. Like, I mean, he saw his dad, he saw his mom like covering up, and he saw the dad walking out with a French accent and offering biscuits. And I'm like, oh,
Being a
like,
big boy.
he's a
Yeah.
friendly guy that's offering you snacks. Okay, cool. That's what a mean dad, like, I was waiting for more. I was waiting for more.
No,
To come
but that
from
was the
father.
thing.
More
That's the
dramatic.
more. The more
Right.
was the mom was raped by
Right.
him. It's like, okay, and sorry, kids, I'm gonna take you to a little bit of a current times. Like, let's say you dating a single mom, right? And
Right.
you go up in there and you take care of business, and you come out and you have a Capri Sun, and the kid comes out.
Priest.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
we talked about with Tokyo Vice.
Oh yeah.
with
Yeah. Yeah.
Santo
Oh yeah.
coming
Yeah.
out, right?
Yep. Yep.
So
Was it
so that
Masaki?
was
Or
what
no?
that was. So
Mhm.
the captain's dad comes out with the fucking biscuits, talking about,
Yeah.
hey
Like,
kiddo, want a biscuit? After he done
Right.
did stuff to the captain's mama.
Right.
So I think we're the victim of our own, as we're talking about, the victim of our own expectations,
Yeah.
thinking
It is.
because it had Robert
Yeah,
Downey Jr., we were gonna get this big boom, like this big espionage
Right.
boom, and everything was just so nondescript.
Yeah.
It left me disappointed.
Yeah.
That's all
For
I got.
sure.
It was disappointing.
I
It's a
think because
big
we definitely thought
disappointment.
Robert. Yeah. I think we definitely thought Robert Downey Jr. was going to be like he's a supporting character, even though he is multiple characters. He's supporting in the whole entire show.
Correct.
Essentially, the captain's character is the main focus of the show, as a holistic aspect. But for me, we see RDJ and we're like, boom, like that's the dude. He gonna have something crazy. He about to go Iron Man snap at the end. No, we didn't have any of that. So it definitely set ourselves
Correct.
up, I think. But I'm pretty sure somebody out there will definitely like this series, though. I just the last 2 episodes just kind of fell a little short. What did you feel about the makeup in this show, in the wardrobes? Let's talk about that a little bit, because I hate to talk bad about anything in these shows, but I feel like it's a standout point that just kind of fell short. How did you feel about it?
So going back to the first episode we reviewed, we talked about how the effects looked weird. There was just a weird. I get it was a period piece, but just something felt off. And I think, and you mentioned it when we see Mon reveal his face, he looks like he's got the wax of a Star Wars figurine circa 1985 on the side of his face. You even said it; it's too symmetrical to be a napalm scar.
Yeah, and it's like right down the middle, and I'm like, ain't no way
like
the napalm.
a perfect
How did it hit
face.
You that perfectly? His hair's still like good on this side, grown back in. And I told you, I said it was like Morph from X-Men.
Yes.
Forgot how to use his powers.
He got stuck
and only like
mid-transformation.
half of him had like started transforming. I was like,
I didn't like it. But again, what was the budget? We don't know the budget.
No, yeah, same. That's true. That's true. I mean, I think for what they were trying to go for, I mean, I think there's only so many ways you can change the appearance of Robert
Yeah.
Downey Jr., and be so many different characters, because he had, in this one, he had bald head with a fat suit on. He also had like a prosthetic nose, different color eyes, French mustache as a French missionary who's really a pervert. It was crazy. I was like, man, there's a lot going on here. But he played them all very, very well. I will say that the acting was very good. I forgot the main character who plays the captain.
Mm-hmm.
He did an amazing job in that torture scene when he was getting tortured himself.
Yes.
I really thought he was getting electrocuted though, because I was like, man, this really sounds like it hurts. Like it sounds like real pain coming from him though.
Yes.
But he's done a great job, I think, though. Was there anybody that stood out to you in the series?
If we're going to say like the MVP of this series, it was Bond, in my opinion, because this man, and I'm going to say it this way, and I know it's a supporting character. It's just almost a bit part per se, but we have to remember this man went from being one of the three amigos to losing his wife and kid in the first episode to going through PTSD, right? Pooping on his pants, having no purpose in life, smelling like shit, working at the liquor store, becoming an assassin, apparently, when they killed Dumpling, enjoying being back on a, I guess it was because it was supposed to be Saigon on that movie set, dying on the movie set, enjoying his time, having all these gigs, only for him to go back home in the jungle. And if you remember, he went back to doing this because he was back in the jungle. So the PTSD kicked in when he was in the jungle. But then him at the camp, he's a cool, calm customer. He's just Bond. He's back to being Bond. So until he gets put into solitary confinement as a part of, I guess, the plan for Mon to get him out and to do the plan that he had with the captain for two of the three amigos to escape. So if I'm going to say that there was someone I really appreciated as a character, I'm going to say Bond, because we went through the psychological gamut with this character. We were clowning him when he was doing jump kicks in the bar, which they referenced in episode 7 about being at that cafe and Bond fighting those Marines, and just seeing him just go from having nothing to being what he was, to going back to having nothing, just starting over from the reset button. And personally, to me, I thought that was impressive.
Yeah. I definitely thought it was better that this story conveyed that Mon was really a real person, though.
Yes,
because for the longest in the last couple episodes, we were like, "Oh man, he's not real. Like he's probably a figment of his imagination." I'm glad he wasn't real, because we know that the captain is obviously suffering from PTSD and some type of mental breakdown is happening with him. But I'd rather it be the people that are not longer here anymore, opposed to the ones that he's following, because it would be like, man, I understand the correlation with his dad and all these men that he's been leading and following, this whole entire time. But if he was following a fake person's orders this whole time, this story would have been all over the place. And I would have been like, what is going on? Essentially, he would never get out of that camp. One.
Zero.
Two,
we got it at all.
They were already, thinking he was crazy. They already thought he was crazy at this point, because nobody's heard him on as well. So that made us kind of think like, uh-oh, this is about to have a terrible turn and he's never getting out of this camp. But it gave us, I guess you could say, a happy ending towards the end. It was a question mark at the end of what happens after they get on that boat. But it's very reminiscent of like escaping of freedom, like on some slavery type stuff. That's all I felt like, they all on the boat singing hymns, spiritual hymns. And I was like, man, they better be quiet. Right. I think we were watching. We were like,
because there was a baby crying too.
Viet Cong might be hearing them. Yeah. I'm like, y'all were singing and we supposed to be quiet. We trying to escape, y'all.
Yeah.
I'm not saying nothing on this boat, but very interesting series though, for sure.
Yeah. So the actor is,
was there any
Hua Juan? Hua Juan Wang. He actually was in Cowboy Bebop as a supporting character. So
was he? Oh man,
And he's
I don't know
Australian and
why I didn't recognize
Vietnamese.
him.
So go figure.
He's Australian? Man, everybody can do a nice little American accent, man. My goodness. Like we're just easy to mimic. Like it's just
I mean, we are.
natural. We are, yeah. Everybody can do it.
What was your
That's
question?
crazy. Oh, I was gonna say, was there any other key points that we might have like missed on that like happened in this episode? I'm trying to remember.
So what I'm going to ask you a question. I'm
Okay.
going to answer a question with a question, and I hate that,
Okay.
but
Okay.
because Sandra Oh was featured in the
Mhm.
materials of this movie, like the advertising materials,
Yeah.
do you felt she was underutilized?
That's hard because I mean, essentially, like we said, she was a supporting character. She wasn't the main character, but I felt like she played her role to a T, as in the love interest, but also I guess one of the antagonists in this show as well, because at the same time, she brought some type of grief and turmoil to the captain's life that kind of gave him a hiccup, you know, a kind of like a roadblock that he was willing that he had to face to kind of get over. But essentially, it crumbled him down to being a lower standard person than what we thought he would be. I definitely thought the captain was going to take the high road, but I never saw him, you know, his jealousy engulfing himself so much that he decided to kill Sonny. Like I just felt like that was unnecessary death. That was like one death in the show that I was like, you know what, we could have probably done without that, to be honest with you. But to answer your question, I don't think she was underutilized. I think she did a great job. But her story towards the end, I still want to know what happened to Sophia at this point. Like, what did she do? Did she get framed for the murder? Is she like back to working for what's his name? Dr. Was it Dr. Hammer? Yeah, Professor Hammer. And she's back to working for him still. Mm-hmm. Did she move? Did she, you know, get in touch with her roots back in Japan? There was a lot of questions in there that they were doing a lot of stuff. So I'm like, what happened? Where did Sophia go? Honestly.
We care more about the side characters. Do you notice that?
I know. It's hard.
And I'm like, okay, so that brings up another question.
Mm-hmm.
The script as it is transcribed from the book,
right?
How much of this is the writing's fault for not drawing the audience in? Like, would you blame the script? Would you blame the writing for the lackluster pacing?
I don't know. I'm not gonna point it. I don't want to point any fingers at this one because I feel like they might have. I'm pretty sure they put something together that they thought was going to be good, you know. And I'm not saying it's bad. I just think towards the end, it kind of lost me towards the end of it. I mean, the first 5 episodes had me drawn in, and I couldn't wait to see what happened in 6 and 7. But then 6 and 7 kind of left me kind of high and dry. So I think the book does a great job of bringing people in because obviously it's won all these awards. But I don't want to say awards are solidified for reasons that it's good, you know, because awards can be deceiving. People win awards all the time that probably shouldn't deserve them. But that's a whole different thing. Let me not get too sidetracked here. But I think, honestly, they try to create within 7 episodes. And like you said, we don't know what the budget was of this season as well, since it was a limited series. So I think they did probably all they could, honestly, with it, especially with the, you know, the location shoots and everything too. But I would be not opposed to watching if they do get a season 2, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I'm not going to say I'll be excited, but I would like to see us go back and kind of dive back into the previous characters. If they start introducing new characters and we get left high and dry again, I'd be like, nah, I'm not coming back for 3. I'm not coming back for 3. Sorry. I'm not going to be invested in these people and then I don't get to know what happens to them in the end. What about you? What do you think?
I don't even want to be invested with season 2. Like, that's how much this turned me off. To be quite honest, look, I loved the camaraderie between Mon, Bon, and the captain. I'm a sucker for friends who stick together through thick and thin because that's a real life thing we can parallel off of. You know, those groups of people that are our ride or dies, as it were. Right. But I don't. How do you make an espionage show? And again, this is based on the novel. How do you take what we read from the novel? And yes, this is all we talked about, the narrator, as he's called in the book, being all over the place. And maybe that was the point, because the narrator's so untrustworthy that we're supposed to just see it as janky. But for me, the jank of this entire series makes me not want to see a season 2. If the network wants us to see it, sure. The outlet wants to see it, we see it. But I'm not beating down the door to see a Sympathizer season 2. I'd rather watch a spinoff of this Jake and Masaki for the rest of my life than have to put up with something.
Version.
Yes, the sitcom version where Jake takes her back home to St. Louis.
Then
have to deal with this ever again. So, final rating out of 5. Since this is the worst episode, that's a 1. Back to a 1. You gave it like a 2.5 or something last time.
Yeah, 2. Last time I gave it 2.5.
Yeah. Overall, what do you give this show?
I'm gonna give it a 2, and that's being nice, because I don't think anything deserves a 1. Nothing deserves a 1 for me.
No, it wasn't that bad.
It's got to be really, really bad. Like I appreciate the part that we got to figure out what happened to Mon. We got to figure out, the captain kind of had semi, a happy little ending at the end. And the acting was really, really good. So for me, I was like, you know what, it did okay, but I just wanted more from it, though. How about yourself?
Oh, exactly. I give it a 2, and that's me being a little generous. 2 out of 5. Because there were good things to like. Like right now, I'm thinking back. I'm looking at the list of episodes, and we liked episode 4 and 5. So we were in, and they just lost us. And you guys let us know in the comments, because we got lost by episode 6. Like, they lost us. When did this show, if it did, when did this show lose you? I'll pose that to the audience. At what point did this show lose you? For us, it was episode 6. So let us know in the comments. But overall, we both give it a 2 out of 5. Acting was great. I didn't like the script. Now that we've played the whole thing out, I felt it was incomplete. It was rushed at the end. That's why you get a 2. Any final thoughts and comments?
No. Yeah, this was, it definitely lived up to the title. Endings are hard.
Yeah.
Aren't they? For sure. So yeah, I mean, but I think it's a lot of people want to close the book on this one and check it out, man. It's an episode definitely worth watching if you want to see what happens to the captain and the whole Three Musketeers series. Yep.
And you can do so this Sunday on May 26, 2024 on Max, first releasing on HBO and then on Max afterwards. Find us here at Big Gold Belt Media, biggoldbelt.com. Like, share, subscribe, all stuff. We're your one-stop shop for all things entertainment. Until next time, Cam and Damien, catch you next.
Refugee.